All right. Well, thank you, Tim, for being here.
Glad to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do?
I'm an actor. I'm also a voiceover artist. I do a lot of dubbing and I produce and I do workshops. I have a company called auditionsup.com and I teach workshops on self-taping for the Television Academy, for Screen Actors Guild, for the Screen Actors Guild Conservatory at the American Film Institute, at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and for A-List International and Netflix and other people. So I do these workshops pretty much everywhere they ask me to. I also have a self-tape business under the same name, Auditions Up. So I have a lot of exclusive clients who come to my house and I tape their auditions and do their uploads for them. And I've been doing self-tapes since the mid-90s, actually.
So,
Long time, since VHS days.
okay. And you said you teach at SAG Conservatory.
I was on the SAG-AFTRA Conservatory Steering Committee for 5 years. I'm not now on the committee, but they still have me come in and do workshops. I did a workshop at SAG on Monday in the James Cagney at 5757 Wilshire, and then I did one yesterday for A-List International at the Hilton in Glendale.
Okay, awesome. How did that go?
It was good. The SAG work is volunteer work because I like to share. I want to give back. But the one I did yesterday at the Hilton, paid me. So I appreciate that.
All right. And I know if when you go to the website, your website, you have like 10 tips for self-taping.
Yes.
Can you just elaborate on that, please?
On the top 10 self-tape tech tips, I put together a list of the top 10 things that I think most actors forget about when they're doing self-tapes. And I don't spend a lot of time talking about the artistic aspects of what the self-tape is. I'm mostly talking about technical things to consider. Because in general, actors don't really know a lot about technical things. So I try to make it simpler for them so they can understand it.
Okay. Which one you prefer more, DSLRs or cell phones?
Well, I used to do these workshops and I would advertise in parentheses at the bottom, I will teach you how to secretly use your smartphone and they'll never know, because in the past they wanted us to use video cameras and DSLRs and whatever. But as the technology's gotten better, almost every cell phone in the last 5 years is capable of producing high quality video. So I recommend you shoot on your phone, edit on your phone, deliver on your phone. In production, there's something we used to call the production triangle. Good, fast, cheap. And we would say, pick two. It can be good and fast, but it won't be cheap. We do it in cheap, but it won't be fast. It can be cheap and good. Well, you can't do all three. But I think you can do all three. Good, fast, and cheap. Mm-hmm. So you can produce good quality, fast, inexpensive, and not have to spend a fortune to do it.
Okay. And now you're talking about actors who have studios in their apartments.
Well, a studio or just a space. You don't even have to have... you can get too elaborate if you think about spending a lot of money on equipment and lighting and backdrops and whatever. You can find inexpensive solutions that will accommodate what you need without having to spend a fortune to do it. And that's what my goal is to empower actors to produce good quality self-tapes on their own without having to go out and pay someone to do it.
You do one-on-one consultation as well.
I do. People will contact me and say, can you come look at my space? Can you recommend the hardware I should buy? Can you tell me what I should get and where to put it? A lot of times people don't understand where to put things. Mm-hmm. Your lights in here are in a good place, but a lot of people don't understand that. And their lighting is in the wrong place. They're too far back when they're shooting, those kind of things. And I can suggest what they should buy, show them how to put it in, and sometimes I even install it for them if we're mounting something permanently.
Okay. All right. So you give advice on lighting, camera setup, audio, and
correct. And I also work as a as an acting coach with a lot of my clients, and sometimes they just come to me for coaching when they're going to go to an on-site audition. But oftentimes, I mean, there's a little coaching in every tape I make. You know, I point out things that might work or things that are not working for me, and I make sure it has a good solid beginning and a good solid ending. Those kind of things.
Of course, the budget, mistakes, lighting, equipment, that's all on your website. Now, what kind of mistakes that you try to teach actors to avoid?
Well, I think the number one mistake, and this isn't even on the top 10 list, the number one mistake I see when people are taping is that they try to push too much. What's happened is that technology has gotten better. High-resolution cameras, good lenses, even on our smartphones. You know, I have an iPhone 14 Pro. I'm going to get a 16 Pro in the fall. But the camera is so good on that. I can shoot 4K video that's beautiful, great color space and whatever. The camera doesn't lie. And a lot of times actors are trying to be something or pretend to be something. I taught a course at the American Film Institute for the SAG-AFTRA Conservatory when they were there, called Technology and Minimalism. I'd been teaching classes there for a few years, and they said you can design your own curriculum. So what I did was I put a class together that met fairly regularly. There was a series of them, and I talked about where television came from, how it worked, the guy who invented it, Farnsworth, who invented television, and how cameras worked. And in the beginning, yes, they needed a lot of light. You needed a lot of makeup to see detailed features, so people had to do it like it was theater and just push it out there. But as we've worked our way into high definition, we have to do less and less. And I say to people, my motto is, let the hardware do the heavy lifting. You just need to be. And I spent a lot of time talking about what I call micro-facial expressions. If you are visualizing imagery, because we think in pictures, not words, if you're visualizing on your face, we will see it. We will see the pictures on your face through your micro-facial expressions, and they will be conveyed. And the camera never lies. The camera will see everything. So what I see actors doing, in answer to the question that started this whole discussion here, you said, you know, what's the number one thing? And that is it, is that actors try to do the work when they should just relax and be the person living this life and be seen by the camera. So pulling people back, you know. I'm working with you right now, and I've got a microphone here. There's a shotgun microphone up here. I could project at you across the room if I needed to. Or I could speak softly like this, and you'll get every note. There's no need for me to push to you. Your hardware is going to find me right here.
Okay.
And it's true with our
TV.
phones. Yeah, it's true with our phones as well.
And yeah, especially for TV, because if you audition for theater, it's going to be different, of course.
Right, of course. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was a theater actor. I started in theater. I learned how to project in a 1,700-seat theater. And the director that I worked for would sit in the back row and yell, "I can't hear you." So I learned how to belt from the diaphragm and push that out. And what I'm finding now, especially in the dubbing work that I do, and the on-camera work I do, there's this old, everybody's heard, actors have heard it because they say it in every acting class, and it was actually an architectural term. Less is more. And I've said that for 30 years, but it's so true, especially now with high definition, is that you have to do less. You have to convince yourself to just be and let the hardware find you and do the heavy lifting for you.
And stillness, of course, they say stillness is your friend when you audition.
Absolutely.
Because you see some people when they audition, they're all over the place.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I'm shooting self-tapes, oftentimes people will go, okay, I've decided, Steve is going to be over there and Marcy's going to be over there, and they're doing this big swing back and forth. And I have to say, look, we're shooting Head and Shoulders here. So you could do that with an eye look and an eye look and an eye look, and it does the same thing as turning your head and looking at them when you talk. Bring it in, make it tight, let it, relax.
And I think it's more powerful when you use your eyes instead of using your head when you turn.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
100%. More powerful to use your eyes than to tilt your head.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the lighting, just a quick talk about the lighting. All you need is 3 lights, right? The main light, the key light, the fill light, and the hair.
A hair light or a backlight. Yeah, you have one right here. So I mean, if you look, we've got I'm not sure which is brighter, this one or this one. I'm not sure. But you're doing it here. You're using what is a standard in the industry called 3-point lighting. I had a production company for about 12 years when I lived in Orlando. And I would hire the best people I could get. I would hire the best gaffer, teleprompter operator, best director of photography. And I'm giving these people money. I always paid people their rate. I never tried to bargain them down. I never did that thing I hate so much when people go, if you do it for me this time for this price, I'll take care of you next time. Because next time never comes. So I would say, what's your day rate? And they'd go, what's your budget? And I'd go, what is your rate? Because I would put those rates together, multiply my costs and pitch that to my client so that, I was taken care of, they're taken care of, the company's taken care of, everybody's happy. Anyway, when I'm working with these professionals, I've got a good gaffer, I was in a position where I could go, why are you putting that light there? What does that do? How does that work? What lens is that? I would say to the DP. Why are you framing it that way? Why is this? So I learned by doing. I've always had a technical mind, but I learned by working with professionals. And 3-point lighting is a standard practice that's all throughout the industry. And what you have is a key light, which is the brightest light, the strongest light. A key light will create shadows on the other side of your face. So you need a fill light to fill in the shadows that the key light creates. And then to pop yourself out from the background, you have a hair light or a rim light. This is hitting me on the side of the head and the back of my shoulders that pops me out from this background and makes me look 3-dimensional in a 2-dimensional space. That's the whole philosophy behind it. Mm-hmm. And you keep the lights up above the eye line. And I say try for a 45-degree angle, but if it's 37, that's fine. But that way I have a very easy formula to remember for 3-point lighting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 3 sources of light at a 45-degree angle. You can count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do 3-point lighting.
Excellent. And the backdrops, do they have to be green, blue, gray, or maybe you can use the wall?
There are colors that you should definitely avoid. Nobody looks good on yellow. Nobody looks good on green. I think the chroma key greens and blues are a little extreme, but if all you can afford is a pop-up backdrop, one of those pop-up things that springs out, sometimes they come in chroma key blue or chroma key green. So if you're going to do that, then use the blue side. But I think more softly muted tones in shades of gray and blue work best. You don't want black, you don't want white. I mean, you use black, but this is a specific kind of interview lighting. It's not audition light. Mm-hmm. So some people, I think black just soaks up too much. I use a color, my favorite color, and I have a pull-down seamless backdrop from Superior Seamless. Number 41 Marine Blue is my favorite color. Mm-hmm. And in my top 10 self-tape tech tips that people can download by going to auditionsup.com, it's free, doesn't cost you anything. Download it. I've got the whole chart in there of the seamless colors, and I've got, circles and slashes on the ones to avoid, and then the whole series of the ones that work best for you. Blue is pretty standard in the industry, so when you use an odd color like, cardamom or, safflower or something like that, it may make your audition stand out, but it also indicates kind of an amateurish approach. So if you're in shades of blue, they're used to that. And a muted shade that's not super bright is best. And we have a saying in videography, everybody looks good on blue.
Mm-hmm. Now, the audio is extremely important.
Absolutely. I mean, in the same way that you have a key light, a fill light, and a backlight, you've got a key voice, which is the actors, and a fill voice, which is the readers. One of the mistakes that actors make a lot of times is they're talking to the camera and they're mic'd from way over there, and the reader's standing beside the camera. So you'll have an audition where the reader is twice as loud as the actor. So there's a couple of ways to remedy that. You can use a microphone that's over here. You know, in this case, you're interviewing me. You're over there. You're not going to be nearly as loud as I am when you ask questions, but I'm right here, and I've got the lavalier on. I got shotgun right here, so we're getting it. And I'm away from the camera, and you're right beside it, but my voice is going to be louder than yours. So by using a lavalier or a shotgun and isolating the actor's voice away from the reader and making sure it's the key voice, that solves the problem. There's a lot of different ways to do that. I recommend for people who can't afford to go out and spend, money on expensive hardware, is move the camera closer to the actor. And if you're reading with them, step back. Because oftentimes, if you're using an iPhone, a Pixel, Android, any of the newer phones, if you have it within 24 to 36 inches away from the actor, you don't even need an external microphone. It's always better if you have one, but you don't have to have it to pick up the audio of the actor.
Okay. And any colors that you try to avoid the actors? They should avoid wearing certain colors?
Well, we used to have something... busy patterns would cause something called a moire pattern, where you get this thing happening with video. As we went to progressive instead of interlaced video, that problem seems to have been reduced. But in general, most casting directors don't really care what you're wearing. You probably want to avoid the shirt that's the same color as your backdrop, But even if you've got a backlight, that doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm wearing black. You've got a black backdrop. I'm popped out from the background just by having that hair light on me. The backlight pops me out. So I have people who've shown up wearing a shirt the same color as my backdrop, and they look fine. So in general, I would avoid, super bright, harsh colors unless the character you're reading for asks for that. So, when I had a production company, and then over the years with classes and whatever, I say, if you're reading for a cop, you don't have to wear a cop uniform with badges and guns and stuff. You definitely never want to have a gun in an audition, ever. I can indicate I've got a gun just by doing that, and that's all you need to do, just below the frame. I'm holding it, that kind of thing. You dress towards the part, but not actually like the part. I play a lot of cops, so I wear a black button-down shirt and a black tie, black pants. Looks like a cop uniform without any of the insignia on it. So it has the same thing. When I read for NCIS or one of the other military, I read for military parts. Khaki shirt, short sleeve, khaki shirt, button-down, white T-shirt underneath it. Looks the role. Same thing as a sheriff's deputy, whatever. I have these. I call it wardrobe, but it's not really wardrobe. Although I do, Mike, have a priest collar that I occasionally use.
What about the framing? Does it have to be a close-up, or it can be a wide shot from, let's say, the...
In general, the number one on the top 10 self-tape text tips, say that 10 times, the number one on there is read the breakdown carefully. Because oftentimes they will indicate exactly what kind of framing they want. They'll say they don't always know the correct terms, but they'll tell you what kind of frame they want. And sometimes they even show pictures. So in general, there's a full body shot that you use for your slate. Sometimes they say slate in full body, or they say include a full body shot with your slate. So if you're going to slate information, name, height, location, whatever, you do that in a close-up. So close-up is here from, just below the collarbone with a little space above your head. The next framing would be a medium close, which drops down to the center of your chest. And then a medium, which drops to your waist. And then, of course, a full body shot, which shows you head to toe. So in general, it's going to be medium close to close in almost every scene. And then occasionally like when people come to me and they're auditioning for theater, I pull way back, open up the whole stage area, and shoot them from the waist up. So I just keep them on a certain plane, but they can come in and out a bit, but mostly we're showing what they would look like on a stage. But for for film and television, you want usually close up, medium close, pretty much standard.
Okay. And the audition doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, because we do it in our apartments. There's, outside noise, the fridge noise.
Wouldn't you like to take every leaf blower on the planet and pile them all up and set them on fire? I say that at least once a week, Dyson, if you're listening and you really want to change the world, make a silent leaf blower that's electric. Okay. There is a diminishing point of return that happens with repetition. The more you do it, the more you break it into pieces, the more you're playing every beat, the less real it becomes. Oftentimes, I really love it if somebody's saying a line, they mess up and start the sentence over again, because that's how we talk in real life. I've done it several times talking to you. I've stopped myself and then change tracks in the middle and come back. One of the things that actors forget, because they're so caught up in making sure they know all the lines, is that the person they're reading to doesn't know the lines. The casting director and the directors and the writer are sitting there. The writer might go, well, you didn't use that phrase the way I wrote it. But for the most part, they don't remember even what they wrote. So whatever you can do to make it real is better. And usually I've been acting for 40 years. So I do a first take and I watch the playback. I correct things that I didn't like in the first take, and I usually overcorrect some of them. So I pull it back to the middle, make sure that's what I want to do, and then I do one more like that. So I'll do 3 or 4 takes and be done. Sometimes if there's technical things I have to handle or something like that, I might do 6. But I've had actors who would come to me and want to do 18, 19. And after a while, it's just noise. And it's no longer something that we could enjoy as somebody being something. It's like somebody trying really hard to make it perfect, and there's no such thing as perfect.
And the other day I was watching a SAG YouTube video, and they were talking about self-taping. And they said, and I was a bit shocked when I heard that. They said, the first impression is the quality of your tape. It's not your performance. It's the quality of your tape. So
right.
It's extremely important to have a good quality tape, not just any tape, even if you have a solid performance.
Yes. Well, what I teach actors is that you can make it look professional on a shoestring budget. It doesn't have to be shot somewhere where you're paying them $150, $200 and they have a studio or something like that. It doesn't. And if you're a young actor and you're getting sometimes 4, 5, 6 auditions in a week, I mean, I'm an old guy. I get, I've had 6 auditions this year and I booked 2 of them. So I feel pretty good about that. And I went to network on the 3rd one. So I feel pretty good about my record. But, I have clients who get 4, 5, 6 sometimes in a week when it's busy. And that can get really expensive. But if you could do a setup in your house on a shoestring budget, whatever you can afford, and save a lot of money. But if you use 3-point lighting, isolate the actor's voice away from the reader's voice, use a shotgun microphone or a lavalier, follow these principles, and then frame it in the way that it should be framed, you can shoot on your phone, edit on your phone, deliver from your phone, and it will look like it was shot in a studio.
When people upload the audition to Actors Access or Cast Network, 4K is a big file. So do you recommend shooting in 4K, then downgrade it to 1080 or 720?
Well, I think you're complicating your process if you do that. Here's why. Like if it's going to Actors Access, for example, the final product on Actors Access is 640 by 360. So it's 640 by 360. 4K is 3840 by whatever the other, 2160. So it's huge. It's going to be, just a tiny fleck of that. I recommend people shoot at 1080 or 720 and then upload to Actors Access from there. What people don't realize on Actors Access, a couple of things. If you upload a 4K file or a 1080 file to Actors Access, that file gets stored up there, and the casting director can download that at any time. But they don't. What they do is they watch the 640 by 360 files that get created during the upload and processing. And here's something that most people don't know. In a meeting with Gary Marsh, who owns Breakdown Services, I said to him, at the time, you have over 800,000 subscribers. How do you process all these videos? And he said, I don't. You do. So when you upload something to Actors Access, the algorithms that Actors Access Breakdown Services uses takes over your graphics processing unit in your computer. So they're not processing all those files. You are. So if it takes a long time for you to upload something to Actors Access, you need to clear some space on your hard drive for temporary files to be written while that is happening. So what happens is you take your file, if it's really huge, you upload it to Actors Access, it uploads there, and then while that's happening, the Actors Access algorithms take over the graphics processing unit on your computer and convert it to 640 by 360, which is also stored up there. So you can speed the process up by shooting in the final resolution you want. I suggest people shoot at 720, edit at 720, deliver at 720. It's still big. If you want to see it a little bit bigger, shoot at 1080, edit at 1080, deliver at 1080. And that way they'll have a 1080 file if they want to download it, which they might do to pass it on to a director or something like that. And then the 640 by 360 file will be the one that most people see, which you can also download, by the way, for yourself if you wanted a piece of your scene in a smaller format. If your file is too large, there's a free website called Handbrake. It's a free program. It's multi-platform. It works on Macs. It works on PCs. It's free. And you can take your file in there. You open it in Handbrake, and then you can compress it a little bit. You can make small adjustments to it to get it underneath the file size limitation if the casting breakdown has insisted that you stay underneath a certain file size.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think now they up the ante. I think they have up to 1 gigabyte on Actors.
Yeah. It used to be nothing over 500 meg.
Yeah, I think they up it.
And they would shut you off too. Like, that was 504, wouldn't go. And then just making fine tuning to do that. I mean, I use a professional editing program, Adobe Premiere, and I can go in and control the constant frame rate and reduce the sampling and whatever, and can get the file that way manually. But it's a lot easier to use a program that does that for you, like Handbrake, which is free.
All right. And where can people find you?
My website is the best way to find everything about me, auditionsup.com. You can go to auditionsup.com. You can get my phone number, my email. You can get on my mailing list if you want to, but you don't have to. When you first get to the site, it brings up a box that says, you want to join my email group, or my email list? Don't have to. Close that box, move on, download the top 10 self-tape tech tips. I'm available by email, tim@auditionsup.com or timpowell@me.com. My phone number is there. You can call me or text me. I'm kind of old school. I like it when people call me and then set up an appointment or want to ask me questions. In general, I don't have a problem asking questions, time permitting, and I don't charge for simple questions. I've had people just call me and go, "Can you send me your latest hardware list?" And I go, "Sure," and I'll send it over in a text message or email it. I update my hardware list on a regular basis on stuff I recommend, and the stuff that's on that list, I'm an Amazon reseller, so I get like commission on it. Not much, if you buy a set of $150 softbox kits, I might get 4 or 5 cents off of it. So it's not. I'm not getting rich from it, but it's just something that I need to disclose. They insist that you disclose it to people so they don't feel like something's happening behind their back. I update that hardware list every year as I find new items, but I've got lighting, audio, adapters, tripods, things I suggest for people to use, backdrops, colors to choose from, that kind of thing.
All right, excellent. And anything else you would like to add?
You know, something I think actors forget, because a lot of times we get a self-tape and we go, oh my God, I've got to do this self-tape. What am I going to do? So the panic is the first thing that hit. I still do that. I go, oh, I'm going to tape this. Oh, ooh, who am I going to get to read with me? What am I going to do? So cultivate a group of friends that you can read with. And what we forget about is that as we've adopted self-taping as part of our process, it's not going away. That genie's not going back in the bottle. It's like AI. It's out. It's not going back. So you should embrace it and realize it's an opportunity. And if they ask you to tape, they already know you can do the job. You just beat, I'm not even sure what the submission rates are right now, but if 5 years ago when I talked to Gary Marsh, he said it was between 2,750 and 3,500 people submitted for a 2-line co-star. And from that, they might pick 50 to tape. Maybe 100, but usually less, sometimes only 35 or 40. So you need to think of it this way. They ask you to tape, you beat 2,600 people out of an audition slot, which means you're in a callback situation. So you should treat it. Pat yourself on the back because they asked you to tape, because you just went to phase 2. It's not phase 1, it's phase 2. You got a callback and now you're taping. And if they give you an adjustment and ask you to tape again, that means you're in a very exclusive group of 5 or 10 people, probably.
All right.
So, enjoy this. Mm-hmm. This is a great opportunity. I used to live in a city where I would drive 6.5 hours to Atlanta, 11 hours to New Orleans, 2.5 hours to Miami, and I was putting 40,000 miles a year on my car. And I would go through cars, like in 2 years, boom, 80,000, it's worn out, get a new one. I was doing that, and it was wearing me out, all the driving. And I was part of a group of people who got together and petitioned casting directors to let us send tapes. So that, we would ride share, 5 or 6 people in a car, drive up there, do the auditions, get back in the car, drive back, get a message on our answering machines. You have a callback tomorrow. Get in the car, do it again, come back. And our find couches to sleep on and all that stuff. Well, there's no need to do that if we could do the first read by tape and then just come to the callback. We had to petition SAG to allow us to tape actors. And then we got a cease and desist from SAG a couple of times, and we had to go and explain that to them when they said, you can't charge actors for auditions. And we had to explain, we're not charging them for an audition. We're charging them for taping their audition. And it wasn't much. It was like everybody throw in $10 and we'd put a VHS tape together with 10 people on it, put it in a FedEx envelope and send it up. But that was it. And it evolved into this self-taping thing. And casting directors used to have to rent a space, get somebody to run the session, get a camera operator, get people to sit at the front desk and check people in, schedule 150 people to come in and read for an audition at this particular place, deal with no-shows, deal with people who are late, trying to find parking. There were all these things that happened, especially in LA, where it was a nightmare to do these. Now they can just say, send us your tape. So it's an opportunity for more people to be seen, and it's an opportunity for more auditions for you. I had an actor at one of my workshops say, man, I don't understand why I have to do all this work. I had 6 auditions this week, 6 of them, and I had to tape every one of those myself, and I let him rant, and then I finally said, you had 6 auditions this week? He goes, yeah. I said, fuck you. But, it's, as you get older, you get less auditions. I've had 6 auditions this year, and it's August?
Yeah.
Man, count your blessings. You're not circling around somewhere on a hot August day in Los Angeles trying to find a place where you can park and you can't read the signs and you're late. And you know what I mean? And you got to sit in a room with a bunch of sweaty, nervous people while you wait to read. Or you can sit at home or be at home, tape it 5 times till you're really happy with your work and upload it and let it go.
Yeah. Just be happy you're getting an audition.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Count your blessings.
Yeah. Well, Tim, thank you so much for doing this.
This was fun. Glad to be here, Mike. Good to see you, man.
Thank you so much.